Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So this case is about a woman named Darlie Routier. She's 26 years old. She was a homemaker, a stay-at-home mom. She lived in Rowlett, Texas, which is a smaller suburb of Dallas, I think. And she became embroiled in this whole, this case that's just swirling around. And, people are very divided about this. They're very, passionate on both sides. Obviously, nobody wants to defend a baby killer. And, what a horrible thought to think that a mother could possibly do that to her children. Um, I I'm a pretty black and white person. Like, if there's reasonable, like, I mean, if you can provide evidence that is pretty clear that somebody did something, I'm going to believe that they did it. Um, but in this case, I honestly, I have a lot of questions. And I don't know, I don't know one way or another, honestly. Um, I mean, there's a lot of cases that where people got off where they did it. I mean, I think everyone can agree on a few that you knew that they did it, but they got off. So in the law, you just have to prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt, and it cannot be a bunch of circumstantial stuff. And while there's very compelling evidence on the prosecution side, but still a lot of it is circumstantial, and it's not exclusive to just Darlie. Um, One thing I don't understand is why no one else was ever looked at in the house. I guess they say that they did look at the husband, Darren, but you know, I don't know. I don't know how somebody who has already, performed a scam and a fraud, isn't more scrutinized a little bit more by the police. But, we don't know everything. So, but just so Darlie was like I said, a 26-year-old mom. She had three little boys. One, the smallest, was named Drake. The oldest was, I believe, Devin. And Damon was the middle little boy. And, one night they all were, they decided that they would go sleep downstairs with their mom. And, people kind of even found that suspicious. I don't. I mean, we do all kinds of stuff at our house. We sleep with our kids. We put, the kids sleep with us. We fall asleep in front of the TV sometimes. We have forts, they have sleepovers. It's, if you're a parent that's very, very, strict and, doesn't thinks that's crazy, then I can see where you might think that that's an issue, but I don't think that that's a big deal. I don't think it was planned or anything, like that. So, so yeah, I have notes here too, by the way, because I want to make sure that I'm, getting everything right. Um, so yeah, so they went to bed that night, and in front of the TV, and around 3 in the morning, as she tells it, she was woken up by her little boy, grabbing her shoulder and saying, "Mommy, mommy," and trying to wake her up, which is just the most, all of it is just so terrible to think about. I mean, I try not to think about that part of it, the little boys, but of course the whole case is for the little boys, and finding justice for them and making sure that the right person is paying for the crime, which is just, I don't even, can't even understand how anybody could. I don't know how people come up with such sick ideas, but anyway, so around 2:30 in the morning, she's woken up by her son. That's one story. Another problematic thing for Darlie is her stories changed. You know, which could be attributed to traumatic amnesia. When when you have a trauma, they I guess they say that you can forget things that happen, and I've never had that kind of trauma, so I don't know. But anyway, she said she did, and then there was after he woke her up, there was a masked intruder. No, not mask. He had a hat on, and he was about 6'1", and it was dark, so I don't think that she, had a whole lot of other detail than that. But she said he was standing there and that they fought, and he had a knife, and she chased him through the house, through the kitchen with the knife, and he left the residence. He ran out the way that he came. And then standing there alone, she realizes she's cut and that her boys are, have been stabbed. She calls 911. The 911, and this is where everything just kicks in, and the whole, just the whole thing starts. From the beginning, the 911 call. One thing I will say, I have like a whole column of things that I feel like are kind of in her favor. And then over here, like the things that are not in her favor. And one of those is the phone call. The very first words are about herself. Now, I'm a mom, and I don't care if my legs were chopped off. If I'm calling 911, I'm talking about my children first. Like, they're the main priority, they're the main goal. And if I'm able to be up and walking around and stuff, and they're, obviously, I mean, it had to be obvious that they're dying. And she even said that on the phone, that they're dying. There's no way I'm going to talk about myself first. Also, as a mom, I wouldn't scream out they're dying in front of them. There's just, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine having my children hear that at that point. So that produced some doubt in my mind, I guess, a little bit. But like I said, I try to stick with, real evidence, and none of us really know what we would say on the phone. I mean, it's such a terrible, terrible thing. How do you know how you'd handle it or what you'd do? So going on from that, the paramedics come, they render aid, I guess. And I think at that point it was pretty clear that I think one of the children had already died, and the other one that she was actually charged with had not died yet. Now, something about that too is if I was going to do something like that and I knew someone could identify me, I would make absolute sure that, I would assume that you're going to make sure the person's dead, because then they can identify you. So there's that, which I feel like is, kind of in her favor. Also, if their theory is that she didn't want to be a mom anymore and she wanted to get rid of her kids, well, the baby, who obviously babies take more effort than these little boys that were 5 and 6 would have taken. The baby was asleep upstairs. So even if she had gotten rid of the 2 sons, she still had the other son. and he was upstairs safe. And, I just feel like if she was going to carry out this plan to get rid of her kids, why, you know, why not wait until they all three were together? If you don't want to be a mom, then it doesn't, you don't want to be a mom to all, I would assume. But, it's because that's their, excuse me, that's their theory. But so from there, there's the 911 call, and, of course, everyone's taken away by ambulance, and everything just starts from there. And so we're starting at the crime scene then. And, well, there's so many that to me is where everything just gets, where you can see both sides of the picture, both sides of the evidence. Um, and I don't know, there's so many things written here. Well, to start off, I guess where I'll start where they say they started. When they came in, they had Rowlett police had never handled a case like this because it was just a really small police department. So they brought in, outside people. And one man, the guy who kind of was the specialist they brought in, the guy who would know the most about it. Where he said he started was the entryway. And so starting where the guy came in, the intruder, came in. If you're, if we're going to go her way for a minute and say there was an intruder, well, the screen was cut. And one of their pieces of evidence is the screen was cut the wrong way. Like somebody had been inside and taken the knife and cut the screen, and it fell the opposite way. Which somebody trying to stage a scene in that house, I really doubt that they would know the screen is going to fall this way or that way. So, excuse me. So that's where they start, is that. But then you hear later on, and especially this show that just came on called The Last Defense, really, really makes you think. And I've always wondered about this case. I've never ever been able to clearly say that I believed that she was 100% guilty, just because of so many things that the prosecution themselves did that were so, muddy the waters a little. But, you know, they take you through the evidence piece by piece, and the screen, if somebody's going to crawl through the screen, what actually happens is it pushes the screen in the other way. So they're saying it was cut the wrong way, but when he crawled through, the screen had no choice. If you get somebody to crawl through, you can see the screen has no choice but to get pulled through and fall the opposite direction. So there's one of their pieces of evidence gone. Then another piece of evidence they had was having to do with the point of entry, which was the window, is I really need water. Sorry. The window is that none of the dirt, none of the dust on the window thing had been disturbed. So, well, they took a camera later on, and the husband shows you how he could easily step through the because the window was at the bottom, or like where your shins would be, and he could easily step through without disturbing any dust. And he did it. He showed that he could do that, because all you really had to do was put one foot on one side of the board and one on the other and just step on through. So there's that. And also in the report, it said no mulch had been disturbed on the outside. Well, they show clearly in the video too, it shows that there was no mulch outside the window. The mulch was to the side, a few feet away, and there's only concrete under the window. So, see, I mean, already you're starting off with a bunch of things that just one of those you would be like, well, that she must have done it. But you know, you have to hear both sides, I feel like. So, um, that's where it begins. And I think I'm going to maybe go over this a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know if I should um I mean, I don't know. It goes on from there. There's just so many things. Then, going from that point, there's the wine glass thing. Um where I mean, if you're not familiar with this case, you definitely should go watch everything about it and then maybe watch this, because I'm not taking you through the sequence of events like in a way that this would make any sense to you. But if you are familiar with it, like everybody knows, all these pieces of evidence. So the wine glasses, they say the guy ran through, and her story would be that they ran through, there was a fight, and wine glasses were knocked over. Well, what their problem was, that why are the footprints underneath the wine glasses, um, if they had been knocked over, why aren't her feet bleeding? Well, what I feel like about that is that, like, all the people that came into that crime scene, everybody to try to save the children and to take, evidence, and to, all the, like, just the chaos that had to have been happening there. I just feel like it's too easy that the wine glasses could have been kicked around. And, maybe that would be an explanation for why the glass was on top of the footprint, um, and her feet not being cut. If the glass wasn't there at that point, then I guess her feet wouldn't have been cut. But, and then, some things, I'm not too sure about the knife being dropped. There's a big deal about the knife being dropped. From what I saw on the testing that they've done and everything, the knife, what they were saying there, could only have been if the knife had a very specific amount of blood on it to make that amount of splatter, which nobody can be sure of that. um the most problematic thing for me, this would be starting out, I guess, on her side, and I'm going to go to the next side later, but it would be the sock in the alley. I've never been able to think that, okay, this woman just came from murdering her children, and, is got blood dripping everywhere, and she ran 75 yards down an alley in front of all of her neighbors, and to plant a sock. um that, I just can't believe that. I can't. That's not to say that That's still not to say that she didn't do it, but I just feel like that the husband or somebody, I don't know, somebody had to help her do that part, because you would just have to be the stupidest person in the world to try to, think that was going to work. Um, but, you know, so the sock was always really something that I just never understood how it could possibly get there without, someone else helping. Um, then another thing is that a problem I had a big problem with this is, if and like I said, if you're not really familiar with this case, you definitely need to watch something other than this to get all the little nuances of it, but in every single detail. Um, there was um, a very big deal made of the silly string tape. The silly string tape is a tape that was made. The little boys were about to turn, well, the one of her sons was about to turn 7, and his invitations, I think, had already gone out. They had already planned for the birthday party. So, you know, she went and had a birthday party at their grave. Um, and the jury, when convicting her, asked to see that tape 9 times. Why? What did that have to do with anything? Is it something that everyone else might have chose to do? Probably not. I mean, but then again, uh, if I was a mom who had just been through something so horribly, tragic, and I was, she's probably on painkillers and half crazy, if you're going to assume that she is innocent. um I can see excuses for that. I mean, I personally had somebody really close die to me, and they died on the 4th of July. They passed away on the 4th of July. And that night, we actually, I mean, it was a very, very sad day. It was a terrible day. And that night, just when fireworks were being put off and everything, after a very, somber day, we said, you know what, this person deserves to be a part of this day, and we want to celebrate them and them being free now. So we put off some fireworks, and some people might think that's very strange, but I really, I think that is very personal to each person. And it might be strange. It might be strange to think that, but that's where it comes in, to do your own thing and let other people do their own thing. I mean, if she was a mom and she felt like that's what she needed to do to honor her children, then I don't see it the way they saw it. I saw it as, they say she was dancing on their grave and she was happy, and I don't think it's fair to convict somebody on that. That is very circumstantial, very open to opinion. So that was one of the main things I had a problem with. Another thing I had a problem with is that Darlie is very, like, she's a throwback to Marilyn Monroe. She is all girl, she is just, was very blonde, and she had breast implants, and she was just very, that was the way she chose to be, like, that was just who she was. And for good or for bad, I mean, whether or not you agree with that or not, that is no reason to put somebody in jail and say that they murdered their children. Um, which one of the jurors, when in this interview, basically admitted, like, when she walked in the door, they had made up their mind about her. So, I mean, fake blonde hair and breast implants do not a murderer make. I mean, it's not fair. It's not the law. It has nothing to do with the law. Um, that was a really small town. I grew up in a small town, and people are very, they can be set in their ways, and they can be like that in a big town, but it's just, that bothered me. I didn't think that she got really a fair shake there, but then Another part of that is, you know, it was said by pretty much everybody that she was very vain. And I just kind of think, why would a woman who is so concerned with appearance and so vain, why would she slash her own, neck, and it's such an obvious scar that she'll always have? I just kind of felt like she would, somebody that was that concerned with appearance would probably um, not, not want something there for the world to see. So I don't know. There's that. Then another part was they didn't show the photos of the bruises on the inside of her arms. That to me, there's just no way. If you can go and look up, Google the pictures of the bruises, there's no way possible that she did that to herself. She would literally have to like take a bat and just go from one end. I mean, she was purple from here to here. Now, the other side of that, which gives me chills to even think about, is, she says it's an intruder. What if, God forbid, like, what if that was, them fighting for their life, or something? That, so that, that is, could go either way. And, so that piece of evidence is chilling either way. I mean, but, you know, I don't know. All I know, if she did it, then good luck with God. You, there is nothing worse that I could possibly think of. So, I don't know. If she didn't do it, she's the most unlucky woman on the face of the planet. But, you know, um, I don't know. That's a lot of it. That's the evidence. That's the main points that I had a big problem with, was it not being just and fair. We have the law for a reason, and you're presumed um innocent until proven guilty. You have to be proven guilty. And a silly string tape doesn't do that. You know, it's it's not right. um Now, on the prosecution side, um they, well, they have a lot. You see, there's evidence they have, but you can always think of, reasons for that evidence. One would be the knife. Um, when I heard that the knife was taken from her own butcher block, from her own, one was taken from the drawer, I believe, and one was taken from the butcher block. Um, if it came from inside the house, I just think there's not really a good excuse for, I guess somebody could come in and see the butcher block and, like go nuts and use it, but not many people break in without bringing their own weapon. I don't know. And then, one thing that I've never heard about this is the date that this happened was June 6, 1996, which comes out 666. So, you know, they say that the prosecution will say that just doesn't happen. It never happens. Well, it happened. Yes, of course it does. I mean, somewhere in this world, this is going to happen, and it probably has happened. People do crazy things without any, you know, explanation. There's nothing new that anyone's going to do that hasn't been done before, probably. So yes, it happens. Can we understand why? No. I mean, nobody would understand why somebody would do this. But at the same time, a mom, a mother who had always, by all accounts, been a very loving, devoted, dedicated mom. It seems strange to me that she just woke up one day and was like, "Hey, I think I will, brutally, in the worst way possible, get rid of my kids." I just don't, how do you hide that crazy? What you'd have to like be either a really good actress or completely nuts. I don't know, but she doesn't strike me as somebody smart enough to pull off the acting that would have to go along with that. Um, so and then they'll, the prosecution said, well, we found this diary, and she talked about suicide in the diary, and she just, you have to go one way or another on this. Did she want the money? Did she want the freedom? Or did she want to die? There has to be one, clear way of going here. The money, they paid more in the end than they even made off of, the death. But then, you know, um, that note in the diary wasn't, it wasn't, you can't just hang it on that either. That's circumstantial. Plus, if you read all the parts to the note, there was a very heartfelt part to her boys, that I don't think a woman who didn't love her kids could have written that part. And then, so I'm going to take a little break right now and look at this, so I'm not, so going back and forth. And then I'm going to do that, and I'm going to pick up from there in the next one.